Ron, introduce yourself and take off.
All right, so I'm Jeffrey, and what I'm doing here today is I kind of wanted to, you know, go through because there's a lot of guys that I work with that are interested in how I modeled this Spandau machine gun using images as a background reference in Blender. So what I've done here is you can see I've already pretty much modeled the base of the machine gun, and what I've started doing is animating it. But um, I have in the past gone through and found some free 3D model libraries that can be used, and I have used those in the past, but in this particular case, this gun was not modeled, so I decided to do it myself. But the goal is to get to this basic shape. Um, I've also, as I pan around, you can see I've started to model the action, but it's not my intent to get into the details of this action today. It's just more a question of how to make this base model. So it starts with an image. So I was fortunate enough, I was able to find a pretty good side view image um, of a machine gun. And it comes like this, right? Or the base model of an aircraft. But you want to start with the borders being tight. So I'm using GIMP, and what's really nice is under the image menu, you can crop the content. And I was lucky also that it was already, um, it had been cut down. But if not, you could, manually crop it. But the key is to get it as tight as possible to, the image itself. And then we're going to save that over so that we have a nice tight image. To
Jeffrey, hold
Blender.
Jeffrey,
Yeah.
hold on a second. I don't have the audio set right. Hold on. Okay, say something.
How about now? Can you hear me all right?
Okay, I think that's on the stream here. Hold on a second.
All right.
Redneck, can you hear him now? Can you hear Jeffrey?
Oh, is he not able to hear?
Okay, he's got it. All right.
Oh,
I'm
good.
terribly sorry. Start over, please.
Okay. No problem. So let me find it. So what I am doing today is I'm working on building my own Fokker DR1 triplane, World War One German, you know, bird of war essentially, and it has two Spandau 0815 machine guns that I actually tried to find if I could find these already pre-built in a free modeling library with that was also non-commercial, or I mean, allowed for reuse for non-commercial, and that did not pan out. There was one available, but it was expensive, so I decided to model it myself. And I also had seen other tutorials that had kind of demonstrated the use of a background image in Blender to try to trace an object, and it wasn't really step by step enough to figure it out. So in the process of doing it, I taught myself the steps, and I thought, Downwind and the other guys would like to see those so they could share the procedure. Um, so the goal today is to build this outside shape, not necessarily the action here that I've started to animate in the game. Um, but I don't know why it's maybe the axis is wrong. But I am certainly trying to show how to get the basics done. Oh, I know why, because it's not all the way down. All right. Oh, I'm paused. That never works. All right. So that's what I'm trying to do is just model this machine gun.
And this is what I've gotten so far in game. Just as a side note, um, down one, I just wanted to show you this belt that you're seeing being fed. You're actually seeing the same bullets go over and over through the chamber. It's only really one bullet moving. I should say the bullets only move one position, then it starts over. But I think it worked out pretty nice.
Very nice.
Um, so the way this starts is in with an image. So what I found was a an image online that had a pretty nice straight-on view. And in fact, I'm pretty sure somebody drew this, um, but it looked accurate enough and close enough to the ratios and relationships that I thought it was a good base. So I put this image down from the internet and basically this configuration, and it's actually got a lot of extra white space, top, bottom, and left and right, which we need to get rid of because we to trace it, we want I want to make it accurately to the proper length, and I have that information on another website. So the key is to make sure this is all cropped. So in GIMP, I just use the image crop to content, which pulled it in nice and tight. If there was not enough, if there was a lot of background noise or a solid image behind there, what I could have done is just, manually cropped it with the crop tool. But I've got this image nice and tight. In fact, I can show you that. Why not? Because that's what we're here for. What I could have done is used the crop tool, made sure that this current layer is turned off so it's cropping the entire image. And then I could just simply grab it with the rectangle. And then if I zoom in, I can just pull it right to the closest geometry. That, and then I'm just scrolling up with my mouse wheel, grabbing this. If I hold shift and use my mouse wheel, I can over here and find where that crop is, pull it down here, and then I know that I'm on the right. By holding down the control key, I can zoom in and zoom out. But that crop rectangle looks good this way. So once we're cropped out, I'm going to save it, go back over to Blender. This is Blender 2.83. I'm just going to save this file. So I do not necessarily need to use this file, so I'm just going to create a new one. Close this first because I don't need all this RAM used up. Never remember how to close something. I think I just have to close it. I'll start over.
I think it's just new. If you just do
Oh,
new,
new.
because I think there's just one document open at
Oh,
a time.
all right. So this one's good. I'm just going to get rid of this. So the first thing I need to do is bring in a. I need to create an empty before I go anywhere. Make life easier. Oh, you know what? I'm going to just realize something. I'm going to do this in 2.82 because I don't have my I don't have that keylogger thing in here. I'll screencast from 282.
Yeah,
Same process. It's the
that's a
same exact process.
good idea.
All right. So if you look in the lower left corner, you can see what keys I'm pressing if I forget to say them. Um, and I actually don't need any of this stuff. So I'm using the border command, which is B, highlighting everything, hitting X, and deleting it. I'm making sure I'm clicking on my collection up here so that whatever I create will pop up in this collection as opposed to all on its own. And it all starts with and the Shift A command, which creates a new object. And I want to create an empty image. So that's where it starts. And right now it's flat to the XY plane, and I want my, and you saw that image, so I want to rotate it along the Y axis. So I'm going to rotate it, trip it to the Y, and I'm going to type in 90 degrees to force it to 90. I don't know why that didn't screencast. So now I have a square that is that's oriented on the y-axis, which is where an aircraft in X-plane would come in at. Over under this empty command over here on the right, it knows that it's supposed to be an image. So I come down here to open and pull that image in, which is this drive here. That was called Spandau, something or other. Side view, Spandau side view. So I pull it in, and I don't like that orientation at all, do I? So I am going to rotate that on the X, which is just hitting R. I'm pulling it close to where I want it and typing 90. Oh, maybe I'm typing 270. Row 270. Yeah, I like that. And this was broken. Sorry. Rotate Y-axis. Rotate X-axis. That's why we call these noob. All right, so this is rotating on the X-axis, 270. You only wanted 90.
It's okay. X, Y, Z.
RX 90. There we go. All right, so there we go, have our image. And as we learned from previous noob ones, if I hit the numpad 5, I'm in ortho, and 3 is the side view, control 3 is the other side. But I know this is actually the left side of the gun, so this is looking at it the proper way. The other thing I'm not sure yet is what this dimension is. So if I go to item here, I had an item size in there. You know what? I'm going to do it this different. Sorry. I'm going to create a new, first of all, let's go to this web page. I'm going to go to the er1.com main page, go to specifications, scroll down to this weapon, and the length is 1175 millimeters, which is 1.175 meters, right? 1.175 meters. So to get it to the right size, I create an empty image. I'm going to rotate that sucker on the y-axis 90. Over here under empty, under open image. Oh, never mind before I do that. This size needs to be 1.175 meters. And then I'm going to rotate it on the y-axis 90 degrees. All right. That's what I should have done the first step. So now I know that this square is 1.17 meters wide. So when I open this image file again, dev, Spandau side view, it actually forced it to the correct length. The length did not change, even though the width did. It shrunk it to the right size, but the overall height stayed the same. So then I want to rotate this, I hope on the, like the y-axis. Nope, x-axis by 180. That ain't right. Why did I do that?
Look up in the top. Like as you rotate it,
Yeah, I was doing that.
look up in the top. So in
Oh, there we
ballpark
go.
it, so it's 90. So just 90 enter now.
Yeah.
Boom. There you go.
All right. And I'm on the left side here. So this is the one I wanted. So I'm basically going to use this and trace objects in front of this. So if you can see, it's flat, right? I'm making sure I can tell I'm in ortho because when I'm not in ortho, I don't see a grid. So with ortho, I see a grid. And I'm going to leave that empty up here. And I'm going to start with a new object. And it's going to be a mesh. And I think what I'm going to do is start with this body back here, the receiver. And that's, I know from looking at other pictures, and you saw from the original model that it's boxish, right?
Hey guys,
So, hey man. So I'm going to add a new mesh that is a cube to start, and that is much bigger than it needs to be. So I'm going to go into edit mode because I like to do all my scaling and moving around in edit mode because if I don't, there's actually other data attached to it that I need to erase later using the apply command, and it just makes life harder. The other nice thing, if I go to wireframe mode, I can still see what's going on. And as I think about this, I've changed my mind already. I'm going to add a plane instead. The reason I'm doing that is I've got a lot of vertices to change, and it's going to be much easier to change one plane of vertices and then extrude it than it is to try to change the vertices on two different sides of this box at the same time.
Yep, gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yep, still tracking.
So I'm just gonna, and again, perfection is the enemy of good, and keeping that in mind here, right? So I'm going to just get things close. Off a little bit. By zooming in and kind of getting my starting point down on this corner, and that's fine. So, and as you can see, I am not necessarily touching that image, but when I'm in that side view, oh, that's what was missing. I was not in the side view. In the side view, I can line it up perfectly. Perfectly close enough at any rate. If I go to edge, I can hit A. Yeah, A to deselect all. Click my edge. That's right. I selected this edge and now I can grab it. Oh, what happened here? I know what I did. Try one more time. Shift A, plane. Brain fart for a second. Rotation 90. Scale it. Grab it. I'm just using the mouse wheel to scroll in. Get where I want. Double click A to deselect. Make sure I'm clicking edge up here. Select my edge and then I can grab that edge. And I'm also going to hit the Y to be sure that I'm just moving it straight. And I'm going to start by moving it out to here. What I can do here is I want to follow this curve. So I'm going to create a new vertices. And the way I do this is I select the edge. I hit Control E to get the edge submenu and I subdivide it. And then you'll see that it made two separate edges. But I can now go to vertex mode, pick that vertex by itself, grab it. I'm going to grab it, slide it along the y-axis to close to where that tangent point is. Then what I want to do is spin it to make this curve. So it'll spin around the cursor. So I'm going to kind of just guesstimate here. That's all I need to do. I'm going to hit the spin command. Over here under tools, the spin command active tool, I can pick which axes I want to spin it around. And I want to spin it around the x-axis. And it's going to put a lot of divisions. That is way more detail than I really need here. So I think maybe 5 will be enough. And we'll spin it again. And if I wanted to, I can click over here and just push it to 90, force it to 90. But I don't really like the way this thing kind of scaled out. I want it to be taller and wider from this point, right? And the way I'm going to do that is also by cheating. I'm going to pick this vertex right here. I'm going to hit Shift S cursor to selected, which guarantees that my 3D cursor is on that point. And what I'm going to do is pick all of those vertices. I'm going to scale it. And I need to scale around the 3D cursor. So that's where it picks the pivot point here. So I want to scale around the cursor. So you can see here now that it's scaling just at the cursor instead of an arbitrary point in the middle of all those vertices. So I'm just going to eyeball it to there. And then I'm going to scale it up again, but this time I'm going to constrain to the x-axis, sorry, z-axis. I'm going to constrain to the z-axis. So that gets me close here, right? Then I can double click A, pick this well, before I do that, I want to delete this segment of the line, which I don't need anymore. Back to vertices, pick this vertices. Before I do that, I'm going to snap to a vertex. So I pick snap to vertex here. Made sure snap was turned on. So the key to snapping is by grabbing close to what you're moving. And then when I get to where I'm going, it snaps to it automatically. So that looks pretty good, right? That curve. Then to
Yeah,
elongate,
it looks good.
elongate here, I'm going to grab this edge using this edge tool. I grab the edge again, Control E, pick subdivide. I only need one subdivision, so I'm okay here. Back to vertices, grab this guy. I'm just going to move this down, and by hitting the Z button, my screencast clearly shut off. I'm locked to the Z axis, and I'm just lining it up with this guy over here. It says it's screencast. Oh, now it's, I don't know, maybe it's arbitrary.
I still got you.
So,
Keep going.
so over here, I'm going to click back to edge, click this edge, and now what I'm going to do is extrude it. And I'm going to constrain it to the y-axis, get it out here to the front of where I know this shroud protector begins. And then again, I don't need this edge anymore back here. So I'm going to delete that edge. Then I'm going to pick this top and that edge, and I'm going to pull these up, grab it, constrain to the Z, pull it up to here. This vertex was conveniently located for me. I'm going to pull this back here, constrain to the y-axis. There's another opportunity for spawning some more spins, right? So this is my axis along here, probably about here to be, centered on this arc. And again, you don't really have to be perfect, although you could choose to if you wanted. I put that here, pick that vertices. And again, I'm going to spin this direction and pretty close. I like it. But I'm going to grab these vertices and just bump them over a little bit. And again, constrain to the Y. Probably going to be good enough. I grab this vertice alone. I'm going to extrude it. So that way I know I left a point behind. To here, grab my 3D cursor. Let me put that right here. And I'm going to spin again. This direction going to be close enough. Nobody agrees that it's close enough. Let me know. So I got this last point that's active. I can see it. So I am just going to hit E to extrude it. I'm going to extrude it out to here. Hit E again to extrude it down. Now, before I do this, I want to snap to that edge. So I'm going to switch to
Yeah,
snap to
so
edge.
when I'm in the sim, right, I'm gonna say, Jeffrey, your dimensions of the machine gun are off just a little bit.
Yes, but I think within fractions of millimeters at this point.
Yes, indeed.
So I can always argue that the guy dropped it before he got it on the aircraft, and that's what made it dent down like that.
That sounds great to me.
So now I hit E again to add another vertex, but you can see it's snapping to this edge that I'm close to. I mean, if I wanted to snap it up here, it would snap to this edge, but I just, again, wanted to get it close. And again, I'm tracing, right? I'm not measuring and doing anything like, because one, this tool isn't really fit for it. And again, it's totally not necessary. So changing my snap back to vertex, I'm grabbing this guy, and I'm snapping it down to here. I have, by the way, completely ignored this little notch because again, it is no necessary to add all these polygons to model that notch for what we're doing. I'm clicking back to edge, clicking this edge and deleting it. So that, if I'd hide this empty, I've done a pretty good job of getting that shape done, right? So we'll unhide the empty.
Yep.
So now the question kind of becomes, I've hit A to select all, and I'm going to give it, well, you know what? Let's not give it a face yet because I don't want to necessarily make that shortcut. The other thing I can do, since I'm here, is I'm going to create another box, another plane, and I'm going to rotate it again in the Y. Just using the mouse wheel to scroll, and I'm going to bring this down, move this over. Oops, let's turn off snap. Get it down to here. I'm not going to worry about rounding the edges. I'm going to grab this guy, ZX constrained to here. Grab this guy and Y-axis constrained back to here. Again, I'm not going to worry about this little extra notch here. So by turning off, you can see I've made the box out because if you look on the empty, you can see that that thing goes all the way through. So I may as well have the slot in the model when I extrude it. It makes life easier for me. Although I can see just by knowing this well enough that there's a face here. So I'm going to go face mode, select that face, X, and delete only faces to get rid of that face. So now I've got a rectangle within this box. So to extrude this guy, I actually have to do a little bit of extra work. And Ralph, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Actually, do you know how to cut this out of another face? Because I don't.
I don't.
Okay. So I'll do it the way I normally,
Yeah.
the way I did it for mine, which is grab a, sorry, I'm going to grab a boundary and grab these 4 vertices, make it a face. Deselect them, grab these, make it a face. Uh, grab these here. I'm not safe here, so I want to deselect these. Which I could also do with a bounding rectangle by holding shift. By holding shift and grabbing a rectangle, I deselected those. And again, hitting a face. I'm going to grab these. Nope. I hit double A again to deselect everything. Bound all of these. I'm good. Hit face. And I think the rest of these will be good. So select these. No, do not shift. Select these and select that one. Make it a face. What happened? All right, that went south on me. I know what happened. I've got
Yes.
extra
So
vertices.
yeah, and the convex faces are when you have those shapes that kind of overlap back on themselves, it doesn't know what to do with that.
Well, if you see actually what happened back here is there was I can do it. What happened was I saw a triangle come through, and that told me I had multiple vertices. And probably by how I extruded stuff, it all made all double vertices everywhere. So what I can do now is I've highlighted all of them, and in 2.82, I can Control V to bring up the vertices menu, go down to merge vertices and do by distance. And if you look, it removed 47 vertices, which was, I had a lot of doubles in there. So by doing that, it should be able to make this face properly. So that's
Yep.
kind of how I knew it was screwed up.
Yep. There you go.
So now I've got everything that's solid. I think there is a way to just punch it out later, but I haven't learned how to do that. So this is how I did it. Um, so again, I couldn't find any width data online. So this is another one where I just wung it. So I'm extruding in the X and kind of just eyeballing it. And again, I did have other pictures. If I wanted to, I could have, referenced this picture and had it up. Um, but it kind of gave me something that looked like an inch to an inch and a half relative to the rest of the unit. Um, so for here, that's probably even too wide. So this is the x-axis. Something like that's good enough, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It looks pretty close.
All right, so that's the basic shape. And again, that was all from tracing it off that original, right? Hide the cube. So that was pretty quick. Um, certainly faster than trying to, take dimensions and do it that way. So now what I want to do is start doing this muzzle. So the first thing I want to do is get my origin point set. And the way I can do that most quickly is actually by face selecting this face only, Shift S and cursor to selected. So now that cursor is in the center of that face. So when I go back to 3, it's forced it onto this plane, which is what I was going for. So what I'm going to do now is, again, make sure I am in edit mode, add a circle. It definitely doesn't need to be 1 meter. Start with maybe 3 centimeters as a guess. I'm close. I also don't need to be 32 vertices, but I'm going to check that in a second. By the way, if you're making these changes in this menu, or especially the vertice changes, if you're making it in this pop-up dialog before you do anything else, it makes life a lot easier for you, because once I click anywhere, these vertices are going to be locked in. So I am rotating it on the y-axis 90 degrees. It's not quite where I wanted it, but I can see that the vertices is a little more detailed than I needed it. So let's just look at 24. It's close enough. I mean, it's going to show up, so I'm going to stick with that. I'm going to click out here, and I'm going to go back to Edge, hold down the Alt key, and clicking any one of the edge elements will automatically select the full circle. So that's an important tip or trick of the trade. And then I can see that this thing is just too big. I'm moving it out here randomly. It's not that big. I'm getting it close to where I can scale it. So I'm getting it out here where I can scale it. Shift S, cursor to selected, puts the cursor to the middle. So now when I go to scale it, I'm basically scaling it on the center of that circle. Maybe a little bigger, maybe grab it on the Z axis and line it up a little better. That's looking pretty good. And the other beautiful part is because when I went to, I'm using the number pad 3 to lock, by the way, the side views. One again is the front, it looks like. If I hold the control key and hit 1, that's the back. And if I hold the control key and hit 3, it's the other side. And by hitting the number pad 7, I get to the top view. Control 7 is the bottom view. Um, so,
And it
but
shows you what those are in the upper left hand corner. It says
it
right
was showing me up
orthographic.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing, what happens is if I'm in orthographic and I am in a forced side, top, or front view as opposed to angling it, now I'm in a side ortho. Basically, the cursor is going to move in the plane of the view that I'm in. So if I'm in side view, I can click click the cursor. I can click the cursor around, but knowing that that cursor was always set at the middle of that element, no matter where I click, it's going to be remain centered on that element, which is very, very helpful. So, but I just wanted you guys to be aware of that from a sidebar note. So again, I alt clicked on the edge of this to get the entire circle. Shift click to the center because I want to rotate this thing through the Z axis 90 degrees. Might as well go minus 90 because that's what it told me up top. And then back to side view, I'm going to grab, actually what I think I can just grab this. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm going to turn on my grid snap again to edge. Grab this, constrain it to the Y-axis, and pull it back. And the constraint was really important here because if I didn't constrain it to the Y-axis when I got it to this edge, I'm still in. If I didn't constrain it to the Y, yeah, it's trying to snap to all the edges all at once and it doesn't know what to do. So by constraining it to the Y, it forces it to stay up and down where it was. So I'm snapping it there, and you will see now I've got this circle kind of perfectly centered left and right on my receiver. Now it's a simple matter of going back to a view, a side view, and I'm going to extrude with the E key and constrain with the Y key and get this out here and to where it's kind of flush with the beginning part of the bevel because I do want to do this bevel. And how I'm going to do this bevel is, first of all, I'm going to extrude again with the E key, get it out to the front edge of the bevel, constrain with the Y, and drop it here. But obviously I need to make it smaller, right, to show the bevel. So I am going to, again, Shift S, cursor to selected. Now I can scale this guy, and I'm scaling it like this. But I want to use the geometry of my image. So I want to snap back to the side view, then hit S. And you can see that lets me kind of line it up top and bottom to set the bevel. And that's it's three-dimensional from the front. Then that's the same process I'm going to do for getting this guy out here. So I'm just going to extrude, constrain to the Y, get it out here, see if I like it, if I got it close enough. Maybe I just need to tweak it a little bit. Grab with G, constrain with Y, get it to here. Good enough. Now I can see that the circle is a little bit higher, so I actually want to go up a bit So I am going to hit E again to extrude. Oh, sorry, I lied. I'm going to hit Shift S, cursor to selected, to get this cursor in the center of this circle out here. Make sense? So then I'm going to extrude. Then I'm going to scale. Probably still on grid snap. I'm going to scale it. And I want to scale it to the top of my bevel, which I see right here. I'm going to grab it and move, constrain to the Y and move it to here. I'm going to declare that close enough. And again, I'm going to extrude again, grab again. Oops, extrude. You know what I just did? Yes. I extruded it and then I let go of it. So I knew I had two objects on top of each other, so I hit grab again, constrain on the Y, get it out here. Extrude again, Y again, get it to here, Shift S, cursor to selected, get that to the center, and then scale it down to the bevel. What happened there?
I think you did an offset or something while you were clicking around,
Yeah, well,
but
I'm gonna have to fix that.
I'm tracking. So did you model all of the vent holes?
No, I'm planning on doing that with by punching holes in it with I'm actually what I think I'm going to do is do a second tube inside it, um, and then have my graphic have transparencies that let me look through that shroud. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yep.
So I'll have transparent ovals in the texture that let me see through, but it'll
Yeah.
let me see through the
Yeah.
other side, so I need an inner one,
So
right?
that's always the balance here as to um, especially in the sim, a lot of times you can get away with texture detail where you don't have to put the model detail in.
Right.
And
Obviously,
then
you want to limit the polygons, and it's a lot less video or RAM processing to render textures than it is polygons. Especially if you get in
yes.
a situation where you're, multiplayer and have three or four of these things flying around. Or if I were to, obviously, if I were to make this as an AI aircraft, I would dumb it down even further.
Yeah. Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
but I would really love to know what I did there. But
Well, it was when you were in that process of when you said, "Oh, I grabbed an extra one," or I think you kind of offset something without locking the axis first.
I might have. Yeah, that looks better. Extrude Y. Extrude Y. Yes, cursor just selected. Bring it down. That's much better. I'm just going to throw a face on that guy.
Yeah, looks good. So Blender 279 has actually a function called background images, and I'm wondering if the version 8 2.8 ish kept
Well,
that or not.
I don't know. And what I like about this is the background images, then you got to figure out how to line them up. With this, like in my head, my vision for the next aircraft I do is I plan on having a close cropped side view and top view and probably a front view, but I'm going to put them as intersecting empties in the middle. So that way when I go to, and that way I can line them up precisely.
Yeah, so in Dan's videos, he
Right,
addresses this issue early on, and it's important to have like if you're doing an airplane, it's important to have like the three view images being overlaid on top of one another um, in a manner that they line up. So
right. So again, that was just basically that's the gist of it. I mean, I can continue doing this, but it's the same steps
yeah,
over and over again,
yeah,
right?
no,
So
that's good. That's good.
that
And
gives
then
you an idea how I
and then just kind of jumping to the end here. So once you have this modeled as an object, then it's a matter of attaching it as a, what do they call it, extra objects or whatever in PlaneMaker. What do they call
Yeah,
it?
yeah. So yeah, it's miscellaneous objects.
That's it, miscellaneous objects, and then making sure that it has the either the same origin point or an origin point that you can move to the correct location.
Yeah, and then right. So and it's actually easier. So let's save this, right? We can learn that lesson. Uh, let's go this one, Spandau. Save Blender file. That was a different screen. Don't panic. Um, so if I go to PlaneMaker, oh well, that's not what I want to do. I want to actually show you
You
Blender.
got a flat tire on that airplane.
Oh, did I?
See
I
that?
think that's
The
yeah.
front's flat.
See,
Come on, buddy, get
right.
busy.
Um, Still a good looking plane.
Indeed.
That's because it's FSX Steam Edition.
Okay.
Um,
All right, fair enough.
so what I've done when I do my models is, especially if I know I'm basically for a specific aircraft, you can see my origin points out here. And the question comes, how do I know where to model it? The easy answer is, I modeled it right on top of the fuselage. So that way, when I saved it, um, in fact,
Yep,
somewhere in
so
here was
the
also the original.
the origin point
Oh,
still remains the same and you don't have to mess around with moving the stuff.
so this object, if I turn this off, this object was actually the object file that was created. Well, I shouldn't say it was an object file. It was actually
STL that
the STL file that was created
from
from
PlaneMaker.
PlaneMaker.
Hmm.
Um, and I actually do think the next, and that was my workflow for this aircraft. I created it in PlaneMaker first, exported it into Blender, and then eventually modeled around it to trace it to get a higher poly,
Yeah, and how'd that
fuselage.
go?
It worked pretty
I
well.
mean, it looks good.
Yeah, and then but I don't know that I wouldn't do it the other way. Um, I don't know that I wouldn't do it the other way, which is model it first, then bring it into PlaneMaker, and then trace it. Depends kind of on the images and stuff because I might have better control. I don't know. It works so well this way. I haven't really quite decided yet,
Yeah.
but
Well, I mean, I think the beauty of this is that if you model the rough thing in PlaneMaker, then it gives you a fairly accurate thing to trace on top of
yeah,
and to keep the scale right, et cetera, et cetera.
right. So, and I've got these all busted out. I've actually learned a lot since I started this project, which was the whole point of doing it in the first place. But in certain things I would do, or the next time I will do them much differently. But you can see this is the object I was saying before to you, uh, downwind. That was really kind of an interesting little model because it's fairly square at the top and it gets pretty rounded at the bottom. But that's the
Yeah, that looks good.
fresh shell ejector. And
That
then,
looks
like I
really
said,
good.
I've
And
got
the
all the mana animations I need.
yeah, the
I'm
animations
really
look
excited.
awesome as well.
I'm excited to see what this is going to look like.
Well done.
So if anybody has, like, I don't know if I can't see I'm not really watching your stream. I don't know if anybody has any questions, but other than that, we are out.
Yeah, we got a couple people in the chat. And guys, just for your reference, Jeffrey and I and a couple of the other guys on our Discord have these discussions every now and again when we come through. We develop some sort of a breakthrough or an aha moment, whether it's in modeling or PlaneMaker or X-Plane or whatever, and then we decide to get together and stream the little discussion about what we've learned. So that's what this is today, and all of these videos and all of the past streams that we've done. There's a post at downwindsim.com, and all of the past videos are linked there. So dive in, and then if you have more questions, feel free to join the Discord and ask away. And it's loaded with a bunch of people that either have the answers or pretend to know the answers or pretend not to know anything. So
Well, I
That's
mean, we're clearly I'm still learning. I'm no expert, but I've gotten a lot better even in the last couple weeks.
absolutely,
Um,
absolutely, yeah. So, and
and
that's
we
why we call it the newbie stream
right,
because
yeah, it's not for newbies, it's by newbies.
it's by
That's
newbies.
yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Well done. All right, buddy. That's probably enough for today. We've been at
Yep,
it for about an hour, and
yep, perfect.
I'm gonna hit the stream or turn that off.
All right, we'll
And
catch you
somebody's
next time.
asking for the link in the chat. I will post that in just a sec.
Awesome.
All right, buddy. I'm gonna shut this off. So
All right.
long.